So welcome everyone. Let's prepare for another yoga practice. And I was going to begin by a reading from this sutra that I've been sharing lately, the Prachabinja Hridyam, called the Essence of Recognition. And I just want to share it because I've been studying this text for many years. But in all of the other translations, it's rather obscure and dense. This new translation is so clear and pure and simple, and it really does, in just 20 sutras, encompass, in my opinion, all of yoga. So if this seems a little obscure to you, trust me, it's not at some level. So I'd like to just open by sharing this sutra with you, and then I may say a few things about it. But I also want to kind of emphasize what Dan was saying before we opened, that it's lovely that we have, the YouTube classes available, and I highly recommend to do them, or even just an hour or a half hour of them sometimes, especially when you don't think you want to. Because when you don't think you want to, I guarantee you that is your mind telling you that you don't want to. Your body always wants to. So often at the end of the day, and if you're tired and you think you're too tired or too full or anything, just to start to kind of move into the threads of the body that have been being held and moved, and just the habits of your body settling in for the night. If you start to move in, it's a lovely way to transition into sleep. And oftentimes you may find yourself falling asleep in a pose, which is wonderful. So just make yourself comfortable, and I will just begin with this. This is the first one of the 20. The sutra reads, "Absolute reality consciousness alone is the complete and sole cause and agent of the entire miracle of actuality, the field of experience, the universe." The commentary: "The absolute reality, that which everything whatever depends on and everything consists of, exists miraculously and alone, depending upon nothing else. This sole thing is what you are experiencing right now, is how you are experiencing it, and is what is experiencing it. Nothing other than this thing, this condition, exists. This is the concrete fact, not a philosophy or mythology, but the immediate actuality of this reality that is right here and now. All of the seeming elaborations and intricacies of your experience, your being and your world are actually just this. This document exists to explain the way that this is so, and to show how to fully discover and realize this fact, enabling you to be aware that you live in and are this miraculous condition, and to free you from the difficult implications of falsely feeling yourself to be the limited, separate, dependent being you may be used to feeling that you are. This engagement of discovery and recognition is yoga." And now this discovery and recognition of yoga. So let's just take a few more moments to begin this process of feeling into your body. And this particular Gita that I am sharing comes from a branch of Advaita Vedanta non-dual yoga called Kashmir Shaivism. And they have a term in this school of yoga called spanda. And spanda means to expand. And the basis for this expansion and the invitation is to actually feel this in your experience. This spanda, this natural expansion, is acknowledging that there is a throb or a vibration to life itself, and that this is the creative force of not only yourself, but of the universe. So part of our transition is from this very limited, finite mind, this sense of contracted, tight, limited body, to more of this internal spanda, this internal expansion that is in sync with, that is already present in sync with this throbbing motion, this vibratory motion of life itself, really, the creative movement of the universe. So let's just take a few more moments and just allow ourselves to just organically relax into this space. Also, I like the line in the sutra where it's referring to how this absolute reality comes to be, and it says miraculously. And so I think that is so beautiful, because we can just sit and appreciate that. Just sit and appreciate that. Our practice of yoga is not about seeking for some ultimate source or some cause and effect, but to just trust. As we can feel this internal vibration, we can feel this expansion of our inner energies, that it all has arisen. If it even has arisen, it all just is, quite miraculously. And just to be able to appreciate that without having to allow the left brain to come up with some kind of theory or philosophy, or also, like they said, a mythology. Just the pure essence of our experience as it is miraculously appearing to us and unfolding. Okay, so let's begin here, and let's take a blanket or a towel. I'm going to use this particular towel, and let's just roll it up. So I'm just making a roll that's going to be appropriate for what I'm feeling in my lower lumbar area. So I'm making it about this height. You can see this is about sort of even with my knee here. But you may indeed want to unroll it a bit. Yeah. So I came to this height after a few tries this morning, and this seemed to be just right. It's nice using, I'm recommending a towel or a blanket. Sometimes I recommend the small bolster, and you could use that if you would like. This allows you a little bit more flexibility in lowering the height or making it a little higher. So very simply, what we're going to do is we're going to put this roll in back of us, but we're only going to tuck it into one half of the spine. So I'm not taking it and putting it all the way across from left to right. I'm taking it and I'm putting it on the left side of my spine. So if you if it's, and because this is something soft is what I'm recommending, it can be a little bit on the spine, but not to the right of the spine. So I'm bringing this bolstering to the left part of my lumbar area. I have both buttocks on the floor, and then you might want to hold it in place so it doesn't slide, and you kind of see, make sure it's on the left, yeah, and then keep the feet on the floor until the upper body is over it. And you may be able to tell right here, this might be too much, might be too little. We're going to add something to it. So what we're going to do is, once we can relax onto it, we're going to let both legs relax out. Yeah, so both legs will relax out, and then let this be absorbed. Make sure you feel good with it. And then we're going to take this left leg and bring it up and in, so the sole of the left foot is on the inside. Let's just put it approximately at the right knee. It could be up higher, it could be down lower. We're just using this as a weight into this left lumbar area. So that's the setup. And again, always feel the freedom to unroll it, to lessen the intensity, to make sure you're setting your body up so you can stay for an extended time without being preoccupied as to what you're feeling. You know, you're feeling this, compressive sort of seeping in of this force, if you will, this pressure, but we don't want it to be such that we feel that we're just going to be preoccupied with it. Almost we forget about it, and so we can drift into this whole expansive throbbing of the whole energy of the body. And also just simply be aware that if you need to, if it becomes a little bit too intense, but you don't want to or feel you need to unroll the bolster, you could just simply let the left leg relax out, and you'll notice that will release a good amount of the pressure. And if you want to release more pressure, you could bring the right leg up. That'll lean you off it to the right a little bit. So, modulate as you will. Find that appropriate sweet spot that you can stay here and relax and just let the body absorb. Part of the exploration and the experience. So we're exploring an experience of this energy, vibration, this pulsation expanding. So part of the sensitivity to this is to not have to put a a boundary on it, not have to put a label on it, not have to name it anything. So the moment we name it anything, we start to split off the energetic experience, which is the vibration of life itself, into compartments that the mind has set up for us, or we set up. So allow yourself to notice that and go back and forth within that. So when you notice that the mind is now, making categories or making analysis or any number of things that it does, what it wants to do is it wants to turn this this expansive, almost ethereal, though I'm not really sure if ethereal is the right word, but this vibratory energy that we are, it wants to turn it into a something, an object. And so this then becomes the quintessential exploration of our yoga, the content, the objective experience that the left mind is absolutely addicted to, and this sort of the ocean of openness and creative movement within the body itself. I think why I hesitated with the word ethereal is realizing that even that, that extremely refined word has a texture to it as well, has an objective texture to it. So even that, if we start to label something that we're experiencing as ethereal or energetic, let that expand as well. So we're really open to this, the vibration that we're experiencing as a very gentle bringing in, a very gentle contraction, and a very gentle letting go out and expansion. So at some point, even the contraction has an expansiveness to it, and even the expansion has a contraction to it. So it's just a melting. It's just energy melting into energy. So if you do indeed still have that left leg bent and up and in, let's very slowly first straighten that out. And just feel this, this sort of hopefully gently unwinding. And then from here, you can either roll off of this. Sometimes it's nice to bring the right leg up and in because this will just very gently, we were there for a while in that, that compressive force. So sometimes bring that right leg up first, tilt you over to the right. So either way, if you do that or you just have the leg straight, we'll roll off of this to the right and just be on your side for a few moments. We're going to do a second part to this, so we won't take a longer rest yet. So just relax on your side for a few moments here. Good. So you can work yourself back up now and come on up, and we'll extend this left leg out and we'll bring the right leg in. So what we're doing here, just anatomically, you may not feel this directly, but with that compressive force in the left part and the weight of the left leg down, we're primarily targeting, if I don't use that word that often, but that intention is obviously to that left lumbar area. By now putting the left leg out and bringing the right leg in, when we're coming forward, this left leg out will then travel and target the right. So we're kind of switching areas of the lower back. So we're going here more for the first time, but there'll be sort of a communication between the two. So left leg is out, right leg is up and in somewhere. And make this very intuitive, not habitual and just hinging. So make sure the upper body is relaxed and make sure then the lower body is receiving the weight of the upper body in an appropriate way. So we have no idea where we're going to end up. We can even have a little movement, relax the head down, maybe side to side with the torso, and then find a spot that feels like you can settle here, relax, use whatever bolstering up you need to use just to support all of this torso weight, and we will continue. Yeah, one of the main reasons that we do not want to come into a yoga posture where we're preoccupied with the pain, where we feel unsafe, but even beyond unsafe, just to be preoccupied with it, is that the foundational benefit of this yoga is to be able to allow the body and the mind to rest. The compression that we're implying will take care of itself. The body knows what to do with this. It thrives on this pressure compression. So we don't have to have any concern really. What we want to do is we want to be as rested, as open, as available to the dynamics of the body, if you will, as we were able to. So the understanding is that deep rest, deep relaxation is a form of healing. It's a healing modality in itself. So we're adding just these areas where we are then letting the body receive this compressive force, and that has a whole hormonal biochemical aspect to what we're doing, not to mention anatomical. So the posture, the shape that I show you is always suggestive. It's a suggestive template. And then always feel free to adjust a bit, to bolster more, to really make it so your body feels that it's receiving, but it's also resting. Not simply resting our bodies, but also resting the complexities and the interplay of our mind. This is why this particular Gita, the essence of recognition, this is a very concentrated word in this study, is recognition. We're not seeking something. We're not trying to figure something out. We're not looking for the answer. We're allowing ourselves the openness, the lack of seeking, the lack of figuring out the apparent complexities of mind, body, and world, and making ourselves available for this simple recognition. This simple recognition that we call yoga. So let us come on up from here, please. And let's lie down, since that was fairly lengthy back and forward, let's lie down and we'll take a bit of a rest here. So just make yourself comfortable. Let yourself continue this exploration of just genuinely resting. So what this, this sutra is pointing to, and I'll just open a little space in my own words, is that basically we have two aspects to our approach to yoga. Yeah, so we set the body in a position, we relax the mind, and then we've opened up an inquiry. The yoga isn't really about the body, it's not really about the mind, it's about our sensitivity as to this inquiry. So there's two aspects. And the first thing we're doing is we're turning away from our objective experience. Because for most of us, this is the trap, yes? If we feel good, things are good. If we feel bad, things are bad. And we're on this merry-go-round of, oh, things are good, and then things are bad, and then things are good, and then things are bad. And it's a trap. And so yoga is saying, let's just take a few moments and let's turn away from objective experience. So that's whether that's thoughts, whether that's feelings, whether that's objects in the world, relationships. Let's just turn away from the objective experience. And then let's turn towards that with which our objective experience is known. That which is aware of our experience. So we're turning from the outer, whether it's thought or feeling or world, and we're coming to this experience. And typically we call this I. Yes, I feel good. I feel bad. I am afraid. I am happy. So this I, we're saying, is the element that is exploring, is experiencing these objective experiences. So that's the second aspect. This is the meditation of yoga, our contemplation. We turn towards that with which our objective experience is known. What is it that's aware of our experience? And then we start to explore that, this awareness is relatively neutral. This awareness then can be aware that, yes, I'm depressed, or yes, I'm ecstatic, but it's still aware. It's just aware of. So then we can start to explore our feelings from a much different sensitivity. We can explore what is a feeling itself when there is no resistance. What is a thought when there's no resistance? So then we can allow any feeling, any belief to just arise within this awareness and relax out of it. So the suggestion of yoga and the suggestion of really the entirety of this Gita that I read from is slow down enough to stop at I. So when I am uncomfortable, I am happy, stop at the I, or stop at the I am, and then turn inward and see what that I actually is. See what that awareness is that is so habituated, yes? And it's habit. It's layers and layers of habit of, no, I am smart, I am attractive, I am creative, it's endless, yes? It's exhausting. So the yoga is saying, no, let's just stop with I, rest inward, allow ourselves to become sensitive and clear enough to see what is this, what is this awareness that is able to experience the entire scope of objective experience. It's just quite a beautiful study. Okay, so enough of that. Let's come on up, please. And let's do the other side of what we just did. So again, we'll just have a roll. If you still have your roll, it may or may not be appropriate for the right side. So you may want to make it a little less, or you may want a little more. But again, the suggestion is to bring this roll only to one half of the lower spine, to just to the spine, maybe a little over because it's soft, but no compression in the left lumbar area. And then we will then relax over it, check in, make sure the upper body is stable on the floor. So I'm a little over. So don't be too far over to the left of the spine, really on it, or to the right is preferable. And then when you let the legs relax out and you check in to make sure this is good, take some time here. And then when you're ready, we'll bring that right leg up and in. So the whole weight of this, thigh and calf, knee is just pulling, compressing into this right lumbar. And then at any point you need to, you can obviously straighten that leg out, release some compression. You could bring the left leg up and in, and this tilts you over. This is a nice release valve too. So, you may just want to explore that. The release of the physical sometimes is really nice to let the body know that you're listening, and just that you're listening. Very, very important to, any exploration of our body is that we're listening to the body and not some, pre-programmed techniques that we have absorbed along the way. tension in the body, discomfort in the body, obviously is is just a collection really of our relationship to life. But one of the things that you can explore, because we want to learn how to soften. We want to learn how to ease into the body so we can have an extremely intimate relationship with it. So oftentimes the way that the traumas and the tensions of life are held in the body are places where either we or others have not been kind to the body. Yeah. And sometimes this is very unconscious. Yeah. Sometimes this is just, we push. So these tensions accumulate. When I say trauma, certainly there are the larger life traumas that most of us have, but just often an accumulation of not being kind to oneself, not being kind to this physical body, not being conscious of how we're moving, how we're breathing, how we're eating, how we're feeling. These accumulate and they accumulate. And so the body has a way then of asking for a more gentle intimacy, a sensitivity. So when you feel something, don't assume that you know what it is. One of the mysteries of the fascial system is it doesn't really have boundaries. Like our muscular system, pretty clear boundaries. Our skeletal system, pretty clear boundaries. But the fascial system is just open and flowing, and this state of biotensegrity and connection and communication and fluid. So when it hurts, it's trying to tell us something. And so we want to listen, just as we would listen to a dear one that wants to express something in a really sensitive way because they're not sure they can express it because it's painful. The same thing, your body wants to express itself, but it wants an openness, it wants a softness, it wants an intimacy. So first thing, if you're still in this, let's just extend that right leg out. So there's a little release there. And then either you can begin your roll to the left, obviously away from the bolster, or if you want to bring that left in first, that's a little bit more release. It's a more gradual to do it this way. Bring that left and just allow the roll to the left to be gentle and just come on your side for a few moments. Good, and so let's roll up, and this time we're going to extend the right leg out. Since we had it up and in, we were on the right side, so now we're going over to the left side. So right leg is out and extended, left leg is in somewhere along the inside of that right leg. And then again, really feel like the weight of the upper body, the head and the neck, the shoulders are inviting depth into the lumbar area. So it's almost as if you're giving the weight of the torso the permission to guide you. Yeah, so wherever you're feeling these tuggings and these pullings and these restrictions, ease in from the weight of the torso. So this is going to be different from everyone. You know, not only based on how your body's holding the tension, but the skeletal variation, how this, this biotensegrity that I mentioned, how it's pulling and pushing, and it's really just a fascinating system. So it's really interesting, when I was talking earlier, mentioning James's new book about just sort of a very technical, scientific study of the breath. And I said, oh, there's another book on that list of the same title, Breath. This is by an Italian yogini who's a student of Vandascaravelli. Sandra Sabatini is her name. And what's so interesting and why that's on the list is because it's a book that mostly explores the exhalation, but from a completely poetic and intuitive and felt place. Not one mention of any scientific detail concerning the breath. And so what's really interesting is they both share the same amount of power uh, and depth. Yes. So here's this very detailed, current, cutting edge scientific study of our breathing, and here's this flowing, open, intuitive, poetic emphasis on the exhalation and the beauty and the length and the importance of it. But they both hold, such incredible force. And so this is always available to us. We can have somebody directing us with a rhythm and a count of the breath or a deepening of the breath, or just as we develop, interest in the body and how it's feeling and the places where it feels contracted, we can have an interest in what I was saying earlier about the relationship between objective experience and the experiencer, equal amounts of interest and inquiry into how we're breathing. And we can open that spectrum. We can open the spectrum to, something like I was saying, I'm exploring with my nasal breathing, and it has a technique to it, so to say, but also just what does it feel like? What is this current of the life force, this energetic aliveness that 24 hours a day you're receiving and releasing and receiving and releasing. So allow this expansiveness that I mentioned to open to whatever it is you want to explore. There's no limit to this self-inquiry. And so let's come on up and let's unroll from this, straighten out the leg, and let's lie down and we'll take another rest. So when I mentioned that a foundational element of this yoga is sensitivity and clarity. Uh, we need to look at this very carefully because sensitivity is already in place. It's nothing we have to cultivate. If we really go in, if we really bring our awareness inward, this pratyahara, this letting go of the outer objective and coming into this internal landscape, it's just incredibly sensitive. You know, the texture of experience, when we really start to explore experience itself, it's just astounding. So the study with, if you will, the inquiry with sensitivity is that typically we just stop at a very kind of superficial or coarse level because of the distractive nature of the mind. So something comes into our experience and we start to explore the texture of it, but because this will trigger something else and trigger a memory, we're gone and we're exploring something else. This is just a superficial exploration. So what the yoga is saying is go deeper. You know, don't stop at the gross superficial layer of what you're experiencing, what you're exploring, because the sensitivity of that is almost unlimited. And I was saying in class, I think it was the last class, that that'll open a doorway, which will open a doorway, which will open a doorway, and it's just unending. So know this, really play with this, that you're already extremely, exquisitely sensitive. We just don't want to stop at a coarse level. We want to go into the fabric and the fiber and the texture of what the experience is. So let's come on up, if you will, please. And this time I'm going to use a blanket instead of the towel. And I'm going to fold it so it just makes a nice square pad. And again, the height and the softness and the hardness is really up to you, depending on, we're going to put this in the mid back. So I'm taking my blanket here and let's just fold it up and fold it again. So when I say a nice square, I want like a good amount of height to it as well. So it's going to look something like the height of the large bolster, if you have a large bolster. But you know, if not, I'm saying that's probably about 6 inches, and the width doesn't make that much difference. I just made a nice solid pad out of this. And the other consideration is to have something for your neck. And I want to show you something with this as well. So I have a little smaller blanket, or you could use a towel for your neck. So the setup of this is very simple. We're going to come over it in the mid back, and because of the softness of it, you can be relatively high. The main consideration is to not have your shoulders on it. So have your shoulders so the shoulders can come off. So my arms are off the blanket and side to side. And then however you want to, you know, come down a little bit lower, you could always do that, but don't get too much into the lumbar. So I have the one edge of the edge closest to my hips is right now right between the lower thoracic and the upper lumbar. So don't go any lower than that. Yeah. And then for your head, you can have something to support the neck depending on how much attention you're feeling in the neck. And you can make this as high as you need to, especially if you have some some current or old injuries. So be careful. But what I often like to do here is when my body finally settles in, and even the upper spine will relax a bit, and the neck muscles and the shoulders, is I'll just reach up and I'll remove this and then just let my head go all the way back. And if this feels dangerous or not good, don't do it. And then after a while, something else will build up and I'll be like, okay, now I need the support again. So you can just sort of explore, you know, always using the gradations of discomfort as the guide. Either the discomfort's going to inform you or it's going to warn you, and you want to listen to both of those. That's really your primary guide. Good, so settle into that. The discomfort is your primary guide always. I'm really just here just to, just to read you obscure Gitas from the 9th century that a part of me is convinced that everybody is as fascinated with as I am. So you can just let that be in the background. That's sort of just like the wind. The real guide is that pulsing sensation of your body. your sensitivity is already in place. So when you come upon something, it's as if this I presence, this infinite awareness, this intimate knowingness is able to then gently saturate the experience. So we refine it, if you will. It's almost as if, when you've come in from a cold day and you get into a warm bath and the body just receives the warmth. There's nothing you have to do, nothing to figure out. There's no technique. It's just this complete somatic, physical, visceral receiving of the warmth, and the body just relaxes. So this is what we're attempting to do with the texture of experience. Nothing to figure out. We're just allowing this presence that I am aware, this awareness to permeate, to soften into this experience. And this is the sensitivity. We get extremely gentle and kind and respectful and curious with these layers of, we can call them tightness, restriction, pain, injury, dysfunction. It doesn't matter. It's the experience. So we withdraw from the need to define, the need to figure out, and we just let this awareness saturate and just gently permeate. So as slowly as you can, just start to fill up your body with more air. So very slowly, just start to fill up your whole body more and more and more, and then just hold it. Don't let it get too uncomfortable, but a little discomfort, and hold it. And then just release it in the same way that you're releasing this air from your whole body. So I'm not saying the lungs. I'm suggesting we expand beyond the boundary of the lungs. And then do this on your own rhythm, just to do it, just to feel the mysterious presence of the breath. So we're breathing in, and we're filling the whole body as slowly as you can, and in and more and in, and then at the end we're just holding it, letting ourselves drift into the spaciousness between this inhale and the exhale, and then letting the exhale just be like a a stream emptying into a pond. It's just washing out and through us, just emptying the body of this air, this presence of breath. And see how slow you can go with this, and see how deeply you can go with this. So nothing is being forced. It's more on the level of expansion. Be curious about that transitional space between the inhale and the exhale, and then allow that exhale to just ripple and reverberate out of the body. So let's begin to release. So if you place your feet flat on the floor, and then just see how it feels before you think about coming out. This is a very tricky area for holding muscular tension. So you'll feel safe before you do. Try not to move too abruptly, and then just allow yourself to roll off of this, and we will take a rest. So come on up, please. Uh, let's see, what was I going to say? A couple of things. About this next thing we're going to do, don't be alarmed if you feel like we come out of the initial forward bend too quickly. I'm going to sort of do a series from up to down and then down to up. So, just stay with it. Of course, if you ever come into an interesting place and you want to stay in it longer, feel free to do that. I was going to say something else too. Oh, yes, I was going to just say that, really this time that we spend, yoga is just in a way, it's such an otherworldly metaphysics because we're not, we can see rather quickly that it's not just about moving the body energetically to make it feel better. This is the sensitivity that I'm talking about. This is the contemplative nature of this practice, is that we can experience for ourselves that sensations themselves, visceral, physical, somatic sensations, just flow into feelings. And that every thought that we have begins to reverberate in the body. So we want to be very curious about this. It's very convenient to talk about the mind and talk about the heart and talk about the body, but this sort of metaphysical quality that we possess, where one energy is flowing into another, it's just really beautiful to study because we can start to. I don't know what we can start to do. I do know, but I just can't put it into words. It's for you to see what we can do with all of that. Yes, it's really becoming more interested in our energy than the labels we place on mind or body or heart or sensation. So, yeah. So let's take either the big bolster if you have it. If you don't, I've piled up these. I put a blanket on a pillow, so this will work. It's almost indistinguishable. And we're going to take the left leg and we're going to bring it in towards your body. And then we're going to take that right leg and we're going to set it up on either your pillow contraption or your big bolster. And then this is just a nice, relaxed forward bend, especially if you're obviously feeling this restriction in the right side IT band. You want to enter that with, just nice and slow. And just sink into it, just relax into it. Like I said, we're not going to be here all that long because we're going to move through sort of a gradation, but enjoy it while we're here. Sensations flow into feelings, thoughts reverberating in the body. The pulsation of your heart, your physical heart and your emotional heart, pulsating and communicating with every single cell in your body. Good. So let's come up from here and let's take away the big bolster if you have it, or if you have a pillow stack, take a pillow away, and just have something soft in front. We're going to come into an open square now. So we're going to go from up to open to in. So we'll just take that right leg and keep it in front, but it's a nice open position, adjusted however, and just come right back into the forward bend. So really, it's like one longer forward bend, but we're just adjusting the, the geometry here. You can always revisit what I said earlier or asked earlier of what happens to a feeling if we don't resist it. What happens to a thought if we don't engage with it? What happens to a physical sensation if we don't resist it? So if we're just allowing these objective experiences to arise within our awareness, we just experience them without any interference, what happens to them? What are they? Good. So let's come on up from here. And the next stage would be, if this is accessible to you, is to take that right foot and put it up onto the calf. So now we bring the square in. If this is not accessible to you, you can just do the open for this third phase of it. And then the same thing, just come forward, relax. As much as you can soften any pulling, remove any idea that we're trying to stretch the lower back. We're certainly not trying to stretch it. We're trying to soften and gently compress it. Good, so let us come on up from here. And let's open the legs out and give them a little room to breathe. You know, as you have the legs out, just a little bit past the hip width, let's just come forward a bit. So in any way that you would like to do this, if you just want to come to your hands and maybe have a little sway in the hips, uh, just to release that those different angles of the right femur. You want to come a little bit deeper in, you can. Good. So we're going to do the other side, but not to think that I forgot the order. I haven't. We're just going to reverse it. So bring the right leg in. And this time we'll start with the inner square instead of the elevated one, and then we'll open up to that. So you can take your left leg and put it up onto the right calf. And again, if this is not accessible, then start with the open, and we'll do that twice like you did before. So either the inner or the open, and then we'll come forward. Good. So let us come up from here. And then if you have the left leg up, then we'll just bring it out for open. If you were in open, just stay in open, and we'll do that again. So we won't pause here. We'll just, like I said earlier, we're just going to keep it as one forward bend. So just come on back down. And also, be very careful that you don't take this invitation to deepen your sensitivity as something that's esoteric or takes a lot of yogic training or control or special postures, and there's advanced levels of it. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's simply a willingness to become sensitive to your experience and then slowly and quietly draw yourself into it. Not looking for anything, not trying to hold on to it, but draw yourself as deeply into your experience as you can. And then see, just notice the shifting, notice the changing. And this is part of the experience. It's in a way, it's quite ordinary that we're able to have experience. It's extraordinary and it's ordinary. Good. So let's come on up from here. And this time you are going to either use that blanket pillow combination, or if you have the bolster, this time I'll do it with the bolster. We're just going to bring that left leg up on top of this bolster. And again, this doesn't need to be precise in its geometry. You can open it out anyway, open the hips, and but do make sure you soften the lower back. Yeah, softening the lower back here. So this is more, not just when lower back, yes, obviously, but for me, it's up into the piriformis and the IT band and the knee. So really not being so concerned about depth, but just, how you really sink in and relax in. Good. So let's come on up nice and slowly. And before you take your rest, this is Venus. This is like one of my primary teachers. It's certainly for Shavasana, relaxing, but I'm not sure right now. It's hard to tell. There's a fine line whether he's just being sweet to me and purring, or if he wants a snack. So even with all my yogic powers, I'm still quite susceptible to kitty mind control. So if I have to get up at some point and give him a snack, that means I've not been able to resist it. Although he may just be being nice to me, but he's a tricky one with that kitty mind control. I do feel a snack coming on. So let's take a rest. Let's take a little kitty shavasana. Purr if you'd like. Feel free to purr if you'd like. Okay. So let us come on up, and I just want to say one thing about this. The big bolster, if you have it, if not, make a pillow and a blanket combination to about the same height. And just so you know that this pillow is pretty stiff. So if you have a softer pillow, you may have to go a little higher, but you'll see what we're doing. I just want to compress into the pelvic area, but I want to show you something about it. So the basic setup will just simply be to come up and place the pelvis up on here. Yeah, so if you wanted to come a little higher, you could. If you wanted to add the second bolster on top or a blanket on here, I'm just showing this as sort of a mid-range. So the basic setup is to put the pelvis here, not the lower back, and then we'll relax the legs out and the body down. So we'll start with this pelvic compression, yeah. And then what we're gonna do from here is, I'm just gonna turn to show you, we're just gonna bring only the legs. So after a while, we'll just bring the legs over to the right and then pull on the psoas a bit, bring them over to the right, pull on the psoas a bit. But what I'm gonna suggest is towards the end, I'm not suggesting it. I'm just giving it as an option. When I did this morning, I just stayed with my pelvis the whole time, just depending on how you're feeling in the lumbar area. But after a time, if you're called, if you feel like this is enough and you want to transfer from the pelvis to the lumbar, you can put your feet on the floor, and just all it takes is shimmying down, and then you're in a nice deep backward bend. You could have something for your head. So if at some point you want to transition this, I'm not going to say any more about it, but you could do it if you would like to. Yeah, so it's up to you. But let's all start with the pelvis up onto the bolstering or your blanket, just so you feel supported. So even this is just so nice because there's so much happening here with the sacrum and the SI joint here and the ligaments of the pelvis and the hips. We just stay here for a long time and just explore. And that's precisely why we go so slow, because we want to feel the nuance of this area and the minor and maybe the major misalignments, and just how it's just such an interesting area. So just let's relax here, and then I'll suggest maybe moving the legs. That'll, like I said, pull on the psoas a bit. And the other thing that I wanted to say about just the fascia in general, yeah, and so it was what I said earlier, is that relative to the muscular and the skeletal system, it has no boundaries. And if you really want to see this, it's kind of mind-blowing. Go to I think it's on my reading list, but Dr. Jean-Claude Gamberteau can take you right inside the living body and show you what I'm talking about. But also, fascia is a very general term, that it's sort of a generic term for this substance that can morph into cartilage and tendon and ligament and bone. It's wrapping everything, it's embedded in everything. But the building blocks, the threads of the fascia are the collagen fibers, elastin fibers. But an interesting thing about the building blocks of the collagen fibers, these microtubule fibers that are so incredibly small that they wind into collagen, which winds into fascia, is that they will lay down layers and meshing when the body is moving in an unpredictable or habitual way. So certainly if we have an injury, they'll start laying down to protect it, and they'll start to inflame, and they'll move in that way. But what I'm saying is, if we're moving in a habitual way, if we have repetitive motion, these micro tubules of the collagen fibers start to lay down, because they think this is how you're always going to move, and they want to support and protect this level of movement. So this is something very, very interesting to study, that if we're moving in repetitive ways, the actual structure of the body is moving in to support that. And then obviously it starts to tighten, and this is where one of the foundational elements of misalignment. So always with this compression, we're moving in to soften and to relax and to allow the openness for these misalignments to come back into a more natural state of alignment. So if you would like to walk the heels over to the left, you could do that. Keep the upper body where it is. We're not going to move the upper body, but it's just to walk the heels over to the left, just to feel this little tug on the top of that right hip, little lateral flexion of the spine. And then if you'd like, also, you could bring that right ankle over the left ankle. Don't bend the knees, just have both legs straight. This is just a lovely tugging. So it's just so, incredibly fascinating, this study. You know, as we opened in a fairly sort of like a metaphysical exploration of the body and the nature of experience, but also, sometimes we just want to feel the bones and the muscles, and very, very good to use the body itself to explore, dynamics we're having in our mind, but also using the mind to explore dynamics we're having in the body. So cultivating our intuition and cultivating this very kind of refined sense of objective experience and experiencer, but also that we all have a lifetime of stored information and knowledge that we can apply, that we can use in a very curious way. So this is why we really honor and respect the asana. It's a type of ritual where we just allow ourselves a very personal contemplation. There's never right or wrong, but it's just to contemplate what's up for us, what's arising for us, and just how mysterious and either practical and or intuitive, and those combined together. And so if you would like to uncross the ankles, if you have them crossed, and then walk your heels back to straight spine. Usually coming back to straight spine here, it's nice to bring the knees up to the chest and sway and wiggle and wobble a bit just to do it. Your choice if you'd like to do that, but it's nice to always sort of feeling this relationship between the stillness and the movement. And then when you're ready, you can walk the heels over to the right. And then when you get to your range of motion, you can bring that left ankle over the right ankle, again, without bending the knees. Well, I was correct. No more purring, affectionate kitty. Gave him a little snack and he's gone. So once again, kitty mind control rules the universe. I'm helpless against it. For example, what I'm talking about is when with just this simple dynamic of taking an inhale where the respiratory diaphragm contracts down, taking an exhale where the respiratory diaphragm contracts up. Just this motion, the complexity of it is beyond our comprehension in terms of the pulsation into organs of the spleen and the stomach and the kidneys and the heart, the liver. So We can know this though, yes? And just as I was suggesting earlier, that we can allow the spaciousness of awareness to permeate restriction and discomfort in the body, we can also allow the knowledge of the mechanics of the body to permeate. Nothing we have to do, it's just an allowing, it's just a knowing. So if you do have your ankles crossed, once again, we can uncross them and walk the heels back to a straight spine. And then either just allow the legs to relax out and continue this sensation into the pelvis, or if you'd like to bring a knee or both knees up to the chest. And if you'd like to even keep rolling up and back into a forward bend, into a snail pose, or whatever you feel you need. We'll stay here for just a bit longer, so just use the time intuitively. And then if you'd like to begin to move off of this bolstering, whatever configuration you're in, and come into relaxation, we'll take a few moments here. And just to, as you're setting yourself up in Shavasana, just a reminder that I have just been inviting you to stay in Shavasana as long as you would like. So I'm sort of not ending the class for a longer Shavasana so we can spend more time in the poses. So, because of, this format. So, don't feel like you need to come up too quickly and close. So just rest if you need rest, relax, and we'll just take a few minutes before we do close. But indeed, if you would like to sit up and close, you are welcome to do that as well. Let us just take this very moment to feel happy and safe simply because we exist. Namaste.